Alrighty, and I am back for the final part of this build. Again, I've now, if you haven't seen the previous parts, I've now already assembled the locomotive. I am going to now go ahead and actually install the decoder. I've decided in the end, after hemming and hawing with this for a long time, I'm just going to reuse the original decoder I had in here. It just, in my opinion, it worked the last time it was there. Might as well just go ahead and just reuse it. I do have a new one, but I think I have a project coming up for that one, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to see if this works. If not, I can always get another one and change it later on. I'd much rather know if this doesn't work now rather than just keep it in storage and then wind up throwing out a perfectly good decoder. So anyway, for the time being, that's what's going to happen. Let me go ahead now and get everything set up. The next step before I go any further, though, is to install these weights back in place. This one is all set to go. The other weight I have over here, and as you can see here, it still has the mounts from the previous frame, which again rotted out on this. That's why this whole process was necessary. So I'm going to go ahead now and take these screws out. So okay, so these are the old mounts now released. They can go into the garbage. There's no need to save those. They're just useless at this point. I'm going to go ahead now and place this thing loosely in position. Not going to tighten the screws down just yet. I just want to make sure I have everything aligned correctly. I'm going to bring these two wires forward here. They are designed, again, by the way, this is designed to go through here. In my brain. Okay. Just guiding the wires through here. I think I'm just going to run them like that. I don't know why these are so short. I don't like how that came out, actually. But there's no other way it would work. Those wires have to be on that end of the truck because that's how they're assembled here. That is strange. Just going to have to work with it as is, I guess. Alrighty, let's go ahead now and secure these weights down. This is a kind of a strange locomotive because of the 6-axle trucks. Again, these were just basically based on the RS3 model that Atlas made, just with 6 axles, so it's got some weird modifications in there to make it happen. Just going to tighten these screws down right now to put them in proper position. That's like that. Come on, you piece of... There we go, I got it in there. Got it. Fixed perfectly. Okay. Tighten these things back down again. Okay, there it is. It's in place. Now with that mounted, I can now start working on the wiring. One of these headlights was changed at one point from what I remember on this kit. The red wires are for the headlight, the black wires are for the power pickup. For some reason this one is different. This one it looks like is an aftermarket headlight I installed. So I'm going to work on first hooking at the outer wires. Let me go ahead and grab a little battery powered iron again. I'm just going to heat this up, put it over there. I'm going to use standard flux on this. Let me get I actually have a brush right here for flux on that. Make sure this is nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and apply flux to all these joins. I may have to add it. I'm of course going to apply a little bit more solder to make things stick. You need the tin to keep these things active. Here's some solder. Fine. Okay, I'm good to get going here. So while I wait for the iron to heat up, I'm going to go now and just gently apply a little flux to each one of the connections I'm going to make, just to make sure it's nice and moist. Again, a dry connection like this old solder on here can cause a problem later on. So I'm going to reflow these connections and reflow them with brand new solder and brand new flux. Flux will help keep these connections from getting too dry or cracking or causing any other problems. Again, if this decoder goes, it's an old decoder already. There's nothing here to really write home to mom about and to go nuts about. If I get it working, that's great. I've salvaged an old decoder that normally would have been just written off. And I can always just get another one in there. Let's see how we can make this work here. So right now I'm heating my iron up. I'm going to tin my iron a bit. Put a little flux on the front of it. There it goes. I think this is pretty good to work with now. Going to tin the wires, I've decided, up here, so I'm just going to dip them into my flux here as I need them. We're going to do this one first. That's dipped in there. Let's go and add a little bit of solder to my iron, tin the iron up a bit. Here's this metal ball thing here to clean my point. I have to change this bowl I have inside my solder cleaning thingy. Oops. I hope I can actually keep this thing from touching the wrong stuff. Might need to put new batteries in this sucker here. Okay, let's now put a little... There it is, it's slowly but surely starting to work. Okay, that's one connection done. Oh, I don't like how close that is. Now I'll just trim that off. I'll trim it off with a pair of wire clippers later on. Let's go ahead and do the other. Let's go ahead and do the other, the front now, since I have it facing in that direction. Grab my wire clippers later on and I'll fix that. I'm thinking my iron is dead, and it is. The light just went out on it. Okay, so I'm going to have to do work on this. Okay, new batteries in the iron, letting it heat up a little bit. Explains why I couldn't make that last connection. Well, that's much better. It's already getting hot. I use rechargeables with my battery iron, so I can really exploit the power output. Make it work really nice. There we go, got that one in place. Not the greatest connection, but it'll do. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over to the other side and do my the two other wires for the pickups. There it is, it's in. Okay, it's all soldered in place. All fixed. Okay, now I just have to get around to testing this. And I'll be able to see how we go from there.
And just a quick note, those of you observant and into DCC will note I forgot to connect the motor drive wires. I did go back to that, and I wound up having to reverse them after I initially soldered them, but all's well.
I did get this locomotive together. As you can see, it's all on the tracks. I did test it out. It does work. I had to reverse the wires. The only thing not working right is this headlight here, this aft light. For some reason, it doesn't light up. I've checked the connections. They are incorrectly. It just doesn't work. I could try to replace this, but I don't think I'm going to bother, mainly because I have to get another incandescent bulb, because this does not have the resistors on it for the lights, and I'm out of resistors for the LEDs. Also, I don't want to really use another set of LEDs on this particular project. So what I'm going to do now is sort of get this thing ready to be assembled. As you know, the body was also a bit of a mess. I'm just going to do a little minor taping here. I'm going to tape these wires down. The advantage of keeping this sort of basic, again, as you notice, again, I use the old decoder. The advantage of keeping it basic like this is that the wiring system is rather basic. There isn't very much to worry about. There we go. That's in place. And all I have to do is make sure these wires are sort of secured correctly here. Okay, so it's all fixed. With that, now let's move on to the final part of this, and that's fixing the frame. If you remember the sill panel, now I do have the original shell, which is in good shape, but the sill panel that goes above the frame, as we know, is trashed. As we can see here, it is again. This is broken right here. It is also bent up on both the front and back. The front porch actually fell out on this thing because it was so badly bent out of whack that the locks wouldn't hold it anymore. And so anyway, as you remember, I had that other yellow side frame and the black one. I do have the black frame, and as you see, I went ahead and painted that red, much like this one. If we take a look at these two, they look pretty. It actually looks pretty convincing. The paint shade is slightly off, but it's so minimal I don't think I'd ever be able to tell the difference. Most people would. The paint's a little bit rough in areas, but that's sort of the rough and ready paint job a railroad would probably have. The black kind of makes the paint a little bit darker than it normally would be. Anyway, it came out pretty darn well, and I'm ready to now proceed. As you see, also another thing I should note, I managed to also carefully keep the little Alco Builders plates. Let's see if I can get this thing to focus a little bit better for you. In place here so you can see them. I didn't paint over them. It's about as best it's going to come. Anyway, so the next stage now is to take the railings off this particular shell, off this particular sill panel, and put them on this one. Start with, I'm going to remove this last one. I left this railing in position deliberately because as I was painting this one, I wanted the ability to sort of pick it up and move it around so I didn't have to touch the paint. The paint has been drying for about a day or two right now, so it's still a little sticky, but not too bad. Well, this one's in there good, isn't it? Looks like someone already glued this once. I'm going to have to knock some of these holes out. One of my secret weapons with these things, a push pin as they call these. There we go. That worked perfectly. I wish I had thought of that a little bit sooner, but there it is. So I got those last ones out, and this is what's left of that railing. So we took care of that. Now it's time to just go ahead and transplant these railings over. What I'm going to need to do is glue these in place. I'm going to start with the outside railings because those are the more challenging ones.
I'm going to be utilizing some clear Gorilla Glue to actually secure the railings into place. I find this actually works really well.
I'm going to see how well that comes out. I'm going to start now side to side with this particular frame right here, the old one. I'm going to pull off these railings, which have already pretty much disconnected themselves. So let's do that. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put a little bit over each of these holes where the railing has to physically go in. So we're going to put a little dab there. Well, that's a little bit, that's too big a dab actually. It'll spread out. One there. One there. One there. One there. Don't need much, just a little bit. Oh, come on, please. There we go. Here we go. Another one in there. One there. And now I'm ready to put that piece in. So I got to get this thing out of here. Gonna grab my railing and just slip her in. I'm not going to glue the front part, just the back parts here, as those are much harder to get access to. I can see right through the glue and see exactly where I have to put this piece. Use 2 fingers to press these in place. Some of the locks sort of work on these, so that'll make it a little bit easier to get them in position. A lot of them don't. Come on. Okay, that was a little bit more tedious than I thought it would be. What I had to do was basically go through each one of these little stanchion mounts and basically grab with my fingers to physically press them hard into the position they needed to be in. Took a lot of force to do it, but I did get them back in position. They are lightly glued down. Now I can work on the other side. Let me grab the other railing and do the same thing. And grab my trusty brush thing here and apply the glue on that. There we go. We're going to work on the next main railing. Again, that starts from, let's turn this around now and go this way. And make sure all these, first step is to make sure all these holes are clear, so I don't run into that mess again with it. These look pretty good. Okay. Okay, so now with those with the holes cleaned out, I'm going to go ahead and apply some glue. I may have to repaint this once I'm done with this. We'll see how it dries. This may actually require a 4th part. Okay, so I've got my brush with a little glue on it. Just going to apply this to the holes I'm going to work with, which is going to start from here. Just put a little dab there, a little dab here. Dab there, dab there. Make sure it goes into the hole a little. The overspray is a little bit clumsy here, but again, I can always paint over it later on. My main focus is to get this attached so it doesn't do anything. Oh, that was stupid of me just now. Alright, that'll work well enough. Let's now get the other railing in place. If you're wondering why I don't just rely on this to snap in place with the original snaps which these came with, the fact is these original snapping joints on these has failed. The other unit basically popped out, they were popped out with force, so a lot of them aren't even in shape to hold anymore, so I need to make sure that they stay down, because if I lose this railing, it's going to be almost impossible to replace without having to do a paint job on it. Let's go through and paint and get all these stanchions back in place. There it is. Okay, that's all in there. Found things here. I think at this point I may have to put the shell on here just to make sure these line up correctly. Looks like I have to now knock a few more pieces out here on the front that aren't in right anymore. Here's this one over here which needs to get moved out. Just going to grab here with my thumbtack and just press down firmly. Shoot, I gotta be careful. I'm gonna bend that damn railing. Had I been smart, which I'm not, I would have done this before, but of course I'm not, so I didn't. As a result, now I gotta do it. Boy. Be careful not to break the frame, too. That's all I need after all the work I just did to fix this thing up. There we go, I got it out. Okay, good. Alrighty, so now I gotta set this all up. Okay, let us now get in this thing here. Put too much on there again. Oh boy. Yeah, I hate working with glue. I have no choice here. Gonna go ahead and apply it to the other section while I'm at it, so I don't have to redo this anymore. I don't want to deal with it anymore. That's just where it's gonna hold. I'm not gonna put any more on there. Put this top piece on now. Let's now go and attach this railing in position here. Same procedure as before. Not going to do any glue on the front section here. I'm just going to do it on the main section over here. You can always fit that later on. Okay, here's how she is so far. Sorry about having to cut the video out there, but I was low on battery, and also I had a lot of choice adjectives getting this stuff to stick. But as you can see, I've got everything pretty well together. Some of the glue did overspray on top of the cab here. I'm kind of annoyed at myself at that. Well, okay, extremely annoyed. But whatever the case, I've got the railings now glued roughly into place, the front and rear and everything else. I'm going to let her sit now, and until this is dry, I'm not touching it. Then I'll see if I have to re-glue anything. Hopefully this will all hold, and all I have to do is come back and physically mount this to the shell. I see I'm going to have to make a few more adjustments here. But anyway, everything's pretty well good on this. I'll be back to this when I get back to it, as I have some things to do now that are going to keep me away from this for a little bit, but I'll be back to it as soon as possible, and as soon as I'm sure this is dry at least, and hopefully have this thing on the rails real soon. Okay, so we finally come to the final part of this project. As you see now, all the glue is dried on this particular shell. I should point out before I go any further. Came out really nice. There are a few sort of weird marks on this right over here. From the glue, not too bad. They're just barely noticeable, and I'll easily live with this. That red came out really well on the body, even though I had to sort of cut out certain sections here where there was the builder's plate and a few other little details. So get that to focus better for you here. And then it really came out pretty sharp. So what I'm going to do now is just see how she fits. As again, I should also mention, I forgot to mention this in previous videos, I did test this and I did lubricate the motor by putting a little oil on the bearings. It's all set to go. All I have to do now is make the chassis up with the shell and put it all back together, and then install the couplers on it, and then give her a test run. Okay, I had to make another minor adjustment. As you can see, I've taken the weight out because for some reason, with this weight in, as you notice I had trouble assembling it before, for some reason with this weight in, this cab would not sit correctly. I don't know what the problem is. All the wires were guided through the right way, it just wouldn't close. So I went ahead and took that out and put it back in. And just put it in like this. I happen to know for a fact it'll work fine without the weight. I'm going to go ahead now and just put the couplers on and get this thing running. Because again, with the weight in place, the cab was sitting 3 inches above where it was supposed to be. Very strange. Let's get one of these AccuMate kits together and I'll put that on here. Okay, that's all done. And with that, I'm ready to give this thing a test. And again, look at the fit, perfect. Again, I'm sorry I had to take this weight out, but it just wasn't going to work, and I wasn't going to mess with this forever with that. I don't want to take a chance in bending the shell any more than it already was. I'm thinking that's also why it may have not wanted to go in with that weight in place. But I know for a fact this won't be a problem, as when I do a DCC conversion on the sister engine, the RS3, I always take a weight out anyway, and I know those engines are just fine. Anyway, next step is to go ahead and give this thing a test and see exactly how well she did. Okay, so anyway, she's now back on the track. As you can hear, I have the layout powered up. I'm going to go ahead now and give this thing a try and see how she runs. Let's see here, 271 on the system. Headlight is on. Turn the throttle. And away she goes. Don't like that sound it's making. And it hasn't run in a while. It might need a chance to loosen up. Good, I didn't throw that switch. I thought for a second it was set to yard. Pretty smooth. There's a hint of unbalanced sound coming from the motor. I don't know why that's doing it. It might be because it hasn't run in a while. Oh, might help if I kept this front truck on the tracks. Don't tell me this is now a problem after all the work I just did to it. Let's try that now. It sounds like the commutator needs lubricating on this. I'm thinking it more likely needs just a run-in. Again, this hasn't run in I don't know how many years. This time it's on the tracks. It looks like it was that minor detail before. Let's try it the other direction. Again, the other headlight doesn't work on this unit. Yeah, there's a funny noise to it, but other than that, it seems to run pretty well. Runs really smooth. It's just strange to hear the commutator of all things whining. It's really running smooth itself. Yep. So I'm going to call that a success. It really came out great. Yeah, the wine's disappeared. So looks like I just needed a good run. So anyway, that's going to do it for this project. I've got it running really well now. Probably seeing this engine, which I think I'm going to nickname the Phoenix, basically, on the fact that it rose from the ashes, basically, rose from a bunch of parts that literally disintegrated into bits. Yep, wine's gone now. So anyway, I'm definitely going to call that a success. I'm very happy I was able to save this engine after all of that work. That's going to do it for this project, folks. If you liked it, again, thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Please don't forget to subscribe, and as always, keep the metal side down.